Hello everyone and welcome back to Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NFL DFS core pick video for week number 5. So if you have not joined me before, welcome in first of all. But essentially what I do in this video is I'll go through each position, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defense, and give you my favorite core pick for week 5 NFL DFS. I am recording this video on Friday. I'm probably not going to post it till Saturday. So if anything majorly changes between the time of this recording and game time, I'll leave a comment down below. And then what I'll also be doing is I'll be going over the pricing for both DraftKings and FanDuel. I'll be going over the projected ownership and optimal percentage according to runthesim.com, not an official sponsor of my channel at this point in time, but definitely a site that I do like to reference quite a bit from time to time. And then just kind of talking the points per game and everything like that. Kind of why I like these players overall for this week. But with that being said, we'll get started with Tom Brady, quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On DraftKings, he's only $6,000, so a very good price tag there. On FanDuel, it's $7,800, so a very moderate price tag as well. It's been an interesting year for him. We're not going to lie. There's been a lot of games that weren't the best, but he's had some offensive line woes, some wide receiver missing at times this year, but kind of looking to have the full complement this week in terms of wide receivers. He got Donovan Smith back at left tackle last week, so that offensive line is going to start coming together pretty quickly. The only guy that's looking like he's probably going to be out this week is Cameron Brate at tight end, but they do have a couple other options there as well. He goes against the Atlanta Falcons. They are 25th in passing yards allowed so far this season, so some pretty good opportunities there. Tom Brady's done very well versus the Falcons team in the past. I know everybody brings up the Super Bowl, but even in the time that he's been with Tampa Bay, he's had very good success for them as well. In terms of projected ownership on DraftKings, he's 13%. The optimal percentage is about 10.6%. So a little bit of negative leverage there, but definitely doable at that price tag. He's averaged about 16.5 fantasy points per game. Obviously, as I mentioned, there's been some instability with the offensive line and wide receiver group this year, so that's definitely affected his fantasy points per game, but I would not expect that to be the trend going forward. And then on the FanDuel side, he's projected for 11% ownership, about 8.1% in the optimal percentage, and he's averaging 15.23 fantasy points per game. As I mentioned, those numbers are bound to go up. So Tom Brady looking like a pretty solid play this week, although he is a rather chalky play as well. Then we move over to the running back position. We're going with Devin Singletary, running back for the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, one of the first things that stands out for Singletary this week, $6,100 on DraftKings and $6,000 on FanDuel. So a very good price tag overall on the FanDuel side. You really don't see that too often where the FanDuel price tag is cheaper than DraftKings. So that's obviously telling you that he's a very good play on FanDuel. He's going against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 24th against the rush in terms of rushing yards allowed. He's got 16 targets the past 2 weeks in the receiving game, and he's really stepped up as the bona fide running back to own for this Buffalo Bills team. Definitely do like him quite a bit this week. In terms of ownership, he's at 7% on the DraftKings side, 9.2% in the optimal. So we're getting a little bit of leverage there. He's averaging 12.3 fantasy points per game. And then on FanDuel, he's at 10% in terms of ownership and 12.2% in terms of optimal percentage, and averaging just under 10 fantasy points per game there. Could be a pretty good week for him. If he finds the end zone, going to be even better week overall for Devin Singletary, especially if those targets keep coming in. That's something I'm definitely looking for. And, they're missing some pass catchers. There's no Jamison Crowder. There's no Jake Kumaro. There's no Dawson Knox this week. So he might get a couple more targets, or at the very least solidify the targets that he's already been getting. Then we move over to the wide receiver position with Chris Godwin, wide receiver for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, the DraftKings price tag is what really stands out here at $5,900. Chris Godwin came back last week, played over 80% of snaps, and saw 10 targets. I do not have any concerns with him this week. Goes against Atlanta. Should be a pretty favorable matchup. He plays in the slot, which is kind of the weakness in terms of the defensive backs for the Atlanta secondary, so definitely could be a pretty good game for him. Favorable matchup for sure. And obviously, if we're already playing Tom Brady, we probably want to play at least one of his wide receivers with him. You could play Godwin and Evans together if you really want to do so, but he's $7,000 on FanDuel too. I'm not sure if I already said that. DraftKings was $5,900. But in terms of ownership, he is coming in about 14% on both sites. The optimal percentage on DraftKings is 10.3%, so a little bit negative leverage there. And then on FanDuel, it's 8.6%. So a decent amount of negative leverage on the FanDuel side, which makes sense since he's more of a PPR wide receiver and FanDuel's half-point PPR. But if he scores a touchdown, if he sees the volume that we saw last week, going to be a very good play overall. He's averaging 9.7 points per game on DraftKings and 7.2 on FanDuel, but you also have to keep in mind that first game he did get injured pretty quickly in the game too, so wasn't too much there in terms of fantasy points scored. Then we move over to tight end position with Dalton Schultz. He is the tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. He's going against the Rams this week. The Rams are kind of in the middle of the pack against tight end so far this season. Dalton Schultz, he had been dealing with any injury. He missed a week, but last week he came back and he played 90% of snaps. He saw 3 targets in that game. It's important to note CeeDee Lamb was limited in practice on Thursday. I believe it was a groin injury. And then Noah Brown was a little bit banged up after last game. Michael Gallup, first game back, was last week. So, it's kind of working their way through this wide receiver room, these receiving options overall. Dalton Schultz, a very good price tag on both sides, $3,400 on DraftKings, $4,800 on FanDuel. Obviously, we would like to see him a little bit more with Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott favors him a little bit more in Cooper Rush, but at the same time, it's a very good price tag. Dak Prescott's probably not playing once again this week, but in terms of the ownership, he's 5% on both FanDuel and DraftKings. Optimal percentage is 5% on DraftKings and 4.3% on FanDuel, so about in line with his ownership. Could see that go up. All these numbers I did pull earlier today before Kyle Pitts was ruled out, and that all adjusted. So some of these tight ends are going to bump up since Kyle Pitts was projected to be the most popular tight end. But I think Dalton Schultz is going to remain a good value because there's some good options at the top this week with guys like TJ Hawkinson and Zach Ertz. And then there's some good punt plays this week too. So you got OJ Howards of the world, whichever tight end from Tampa you want to play. There's Quentin Morris, who's going to start probably for the Buffalo Bills in place of Dawson Knox, who's like $2,600. So the middle ground might be left out a little bit more this week than normal. And you're also missing Travis Kelce off the top, Darren Waller off the top, and I believe Mark Andrews is not on the slate either. So there's a lot of the top end options not there. The guys towards the top are the guys that are usually the top of the middle, and now the middle is kind of that forgotten zone. I at least think it will be this week. So Dalton Schultz looking like a pretty solid play overall. Decent matchup. There's could be some things that work out in his favor, especially if he does end up scoring a touchdown and seeing some volume overall. And then last but not least, we're going right back to the Jets defense. They worked out pretty well last week. Their price tag on DraftKings did not change at all, $2,600. On FanDuel, it went up to $4,000. They go against the Miami Dolphins this week. They are rocking with the backup quarterback and Teddy Bridgewater. We'll see how well that works out for them. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, both a little bit banged up in practice this week. We'll see if that affects them during the game at all. But part of the Jets defense that has worked out pretty well is their corners have been playing really well. They've been generating, a little bit of pressure with their pass rush overall. So if they can do that to Miami this week, could be some favorable opportunities there. Teddy is a guy that does typically break down under pressure, and as much as everybody says that he's safe, when he gets under pressure, he still makes bad decisions. So there's a reason he's not a starter in the NFL at this point in time, and part of it is that. But even though he came in last week and he played pretty well in relief of Tua, it's still a backup quarterback. I don't think he's that much worse than Tua at the same time, but this defense could still have their way with him if they create a turnover, if they can get some sacks on him. Going to look pretty good overall. Projected for 3% ownership on DraftKings, about 3% in the optimal, averaging 5.5 points per game. And then on FanDuel, projected for 2% ownership, 2.3% in the optimal, so a little bit of leverage to be gained there. And then 5.5 fantasy points per game on the FanDuel side as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here in this video for my core picks, on DraftKings, you'll have $26,000 remaining, $6,500 per player. So that is a very, very healthy amount of cash to spend. Definitely a lot of different options that you could spend it in. If you guys are not already on my Patreon, definitely be sure to check that out, patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. I do have a full DFS player pool for week 5 on there, as well as every single week. And then I try to do all the single game slates on there as well, if I'm able to do so. Obviously, you definitely check out these live streams for the Monday night and the Thursday night football games where I break those down as well. And then on the FanDuel side, if you go with these 5 guys, you have $30,400 remaining, and then about $7,600 per player remaining. So a good healthy amount there as well. So if you go with these 5 core picks, got a pretty good start there, and then kind of filling out from there. Maybe you want to build more of that Tampa stack. Maybe you want to bring back on the Atlanta side, whether it's a Tyler Algier, a Drake London, maybe somebody a little bit different. Since there's no Kyle Pitts this week, it'll definitely be interesting if you're going to try to build out that stack. And a lot of people are probably going to do that this week, so it's a little bit popular. So maybe finding ways to get just a little bit different could put you over the top this week overall. But with that being said, these are my 5 core picks for NFL DFS Week 5 on both FanDuel and DraftKings. Definitely would be interested in hearing who your guys' favorite plays are for this week, so definitely be sure to leave that down in the comments. My NFL DFS cheat sheets will also be going up on WeBetATS.com when those are available. I'll leave them in a link down in the comments below as well, so you can definitely check them out. But with that being said, if you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Primarily right now, it's going to be NFL DFS because MLB DFS is over because of the regular season being over. I'm not doing for the postseason. And then the NBA season starts up in about a week and a half. And then when that gets rolling, I'll be doing daily NBA DFS videos, my core picks for both DraftKings and FanDuel. And then with that being said, if you're a new or current subscriber who's yet to do so, also be sure to hit that notification bell down below. It's going to let you know every single time I post up a new video. Like I've been saying, I post up NFL DFS core pick videos just like this every single week. Probably going to work in some other content as well, but definitely check out the live streams for the Monday night and Thursday night football games. About 45 minutes prior to lock time, going for about 20-30 minutes, just kind of breaking down the slate overall, talking some inactives and building some lineups and answering some questions you guys may have. And then once the NBA season is rolling, I'll be doing daily NBA core pick videos as well. But with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. And then last but not least, special little shout out to each and every one of you watching today's video. I truly do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Definitely means a lot to me, and I hope each and every one of you has a great rest of your day.